All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I'm not going to say Whiskey Shaman Podcast again. I said it again. Anyway, today we got a very special guest. We have Christopher Conrad here, and he's going to talk to us about barrels and about wood influence on whiskeys and stuff like that. So without further ado, here he is.
Hey, Whiskey Shaman, I appreciate you having me on.
No problem.
My name, as you said, is Christopher Conrad. So I am the owner of Badmo Legacy Barrels. So as you can see behind me, we make small 1.7 gallon barrels. My history is I came from the government side. I used to be in the military, and I did government contracts working for several mental hospitals, including the state mental hospital. And a few years ago, I decided I kind of wanted to go down this whiskey path or this whiskey journey. And it got to a point where I really wanted to understand wood. And I had a really good friend. Many of you probably know him, BadMotivator. So Ben Quady, he passed away about a month ago, but he had this shop and we would make barrels together and we were really good friends. So when he passed away, I continued on his legacy. And so I've been here for about a month now. And actually, just today, we made our 200th barrel. So we are chugging along. Yeah, actually, I'll show it to you. It's pretty amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And guys, just to let you know, Ben was a staple in the I'm going to say it, in the home distilling community, but also in people that are doing cool stuff with wines and ciders and beers and stuff like that. If you've seen, I did a YouTube video on it and stuff like that. So just go check that out. And then, Jesse from Stillet's been supporting him. Alan Bishop's been supporting them. So go check them out, check their website out and stuff like that as well. Continue. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So this is barrel number 200 for me.
Okay.
And as you can see, I've got both the BadMotivator barrel and my logo.
Okay.
So I'm a rope rescue technician, and that's kind of been my side hustle for years. Is I do wildland firefighting, and I like to play on ropes. So my logo is a carabiner, and this barrel is a combination of Ben's legacy plus my influence. And we're really excited to have number 200 done, and we're just keep chugging along. As you can see, I've got probably about 50 behind me right now that we're going to start selling.
Awesome.
If not Friday, then Monday.
Oh wow.
So we'll try to get those done over the weekend.
That's amazing. And the fact that you can go from where he left off, which you're never going to be able to recreate the way Ben did it, because he was a master at his craft and he had everything mapped out his way. But to go from there and just carry that on in his memory, in his legacy, and go from there, and now you're already in 1 month, you're already 200 barrels in, which to me is a huge deal, because like it would be really easy for you to be like, well, it was a good run, condolences, but it is what it is. But the whole community is so into this that you felt, and I know you have a partner that you work with as well, you felt that you had to step up and do it. And that to me is admirable and also awesome at the same time, because if you guys are into whatever Badmo is doing, then it's going to be one of those things that when we heard the horrific news, the whole community was kind of like, oh, well, that sucks. Now we can't. Now, I mean, obviously the loss was a horrible thing, but like now we're like, oh, now what are we supposed to do? We were just now getting into this. I mean, it had just kind of taken off into a thing to where like y'all were having a hard time keeping up with. I mean, a big hard time keeping up with orders and stuff like that. And so now it just kind of got cut off. And so the fact that you're able to come back strong, and I heard you're fixing to hire another guy in the shop. Is that correct?
Well, so we already hired somebody. So I've got another Chris here. So it's fun. Somebody pops in and they say Chris, and somebody's going to answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got another Chris, and he's full time. So he's helping make barrels, which is amazing. Um, I also have Jeremy. He was the person who was helping Ben before he passed, and I've got
Right.
Jeremy coming in a couple hours a week to help, which is great. I've also got my family stopping in, so my wife and daughter and son come into the shop, and I always put them to work.
Yeah,
they're busy.
Yeah, exactly. So walk us through, I guess, walk us through a day of barrel making. That, and I don't know if that's an easy way to say it, but kind of how the ins and outs of it. Kind of give us the down low on what exactly goes into making one of these barrels, I guess I'll say.
Sure. So it takes about a week to make a barrel from start to finish. And so that's kind of why we do sales pretty much weekly right now, is because of the amount of time it takes. So we start with white American oak. So the oak that I'm currently getting, it comes from a stave mill in Missouri. It's been outdoor aged for 42 months. So wow. just over 3 years, about 3.5 years. Ben was always big into the highest quality wood we possibly could get. So we were getting 60-month wood out of Kentucky, but now, because of availability, I'm getting the best wood I can. So we take the wood, it comes off a pallet, and we'll run it through our plane. So you can just barely see the plane. It's behind this shaper over here. And so we'll run it through the plane, and from there it goes across the street to, we've got some griddles set up that we toast on. So the wood will go and get toasted. So if it's a light toast, that's about 15 minutes, all the way up to a heavy toast, which is 45 minutes. From there, it'll go over here to our shaper station. So we've got 2 shapers that are back to back, and they've got 2 knives on them, and they're direct copies of each other. I'll show you the knife set.
Yeah,
real
that'd
quick.
be great.
So this is the knife that we use. So that's the profile that we get from the wood. Hopefully you guys can see that.
Oh yeah.
And so we've got two matching sides, a left and a right, and we'll run through there. And the wood that we're working with right now is about 20 inches long. So after it goes through the plane or through the shaper, it gets cut. We'll chop it into 9-inch sections, about 9 inches, and we'll put them together and we make a head. Let me grab a head real quick.
Yeah. And this is what's so cool, guys, is they're doing all of this stuff in-house. You can see all the stuff behind him. All they're doing everything in-house. And that's what's really cool. The only thing they're sourcing is the wood, and obviously the stainless barrel. But yeah, I mean, this is some high grade stuff. And if you listen to Alan Bishop or any of these other guys, they're saying it's rivaling to a 53-gallon barrel in maturation time. So take that into account.
Well, it's all about the liquid to volume ratio. So the liquid to volume ratio, we did the math on it, and it's actually it's more liquid than a 53-gallon barrel. So it actually matures slightly slower than a 53-gallon barrel. So you get maximum extraction. So here's that head that I was talking about. So this is after it's been jointed and we knock it together. You can see the back here has been toasted. And from here, it'll go over to the bandsaw, which you can kind of see the bandsaw is right here. And that's where we will cut it into a circle. So we've got a circle jig on the bandsaw, and that's where we make our circles. From there, those get sanded, cleaned up, and we press them into the barrels. So those are the stainless steel cans. And then at that point, you've got a barrel. So we'll add a bung, we'll add a tap, and depending on what the customer orders. So like this is a untoasted barrel. And if we wanted to toast this, we take it outside and we use a weed torch. So like a propane torch, and we char it. So we have char levels from 1 to 4. Char level 1 is about 10 seconds in the flame. Our char 4 is about 40 seconds in that same flame. And that's how we determine different char levels. If you look at char between char 2 and char 3 is about when it starts to develop that alligator pattern.
Mhm.
And then by char 4, it's pretty cooked.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't,
I
I don't know
bet.
if we can get much more heat in there. I know we've played around with trying to do like a char 5.5, and because I know Buffalo Trace have been playing around with that, and
Right.
it's just, I mean, it's so sooty. It just turns into chalk.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you got pieces just falling off and all your charcoal's just falling off, and then you're left with nothing and there's barely any wood left. And so then it also messes with your toast, because the toast that you put on it is trying to permeate into the wood. And once you char it so much,
Uh-huh.
you're eating through that toast as well. So yeah, I can see how
Right.
that
Well,
would
and
not.
that definitely brought up the discussion. Should we even toast it? Should we just char the heck out of it?
And
And
that's what a lot of people have been saying as well.
yeah. Um, well, and that test, we filled it up with water and we couldn't get it watertight. So the wood had shrunk so much from that torch that we couldn't get it to hold water. And as you can see, I mean, the wood that we're dealing with is pretty thick. So
Right. Yeah.
we say at least an inch, but usually it's right around an inch and a 1/16 is our
Oh
final
wow.
dimension of width.
Okay.
So it's some pretty significant wood.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, excuse me, sorry, I'm still fighting stuff. I'm going to the doctor tomorrow, guys, I promise. And so whenever you go to press it into the thing, it's obviously forced in there. Is that correct? So it's not like you
Yeah.
actually
So
bend the metal, correct?
yeah, so I have a hydraulic press. You can't see it; the barrels are covering it up. But there's a hydraulic press, just like you'd see in an auto shop, that we use to forcibly press the barrel head into the can.
Oh wow. So it
So
actually
you can
bends the
physically
stainless.
see, yeah, you
Wow.
can physically see a ring being forced out around it.
Wow.
And then from there, we've discovered that we have to pin it. So we drill 3 holes in each barrel, and then we put a nail just to keep the barrel head from moving.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
there's no screws, there's no anything other than just the wood, the force of the wood together, and then the force of the metal around it. So there's nothing else. I heard Ben say one time something about some beeswax if it starts to leak or something like that, but that's not going to
Right.
affect
Well,
flavor or anything.
and so we do. We have a Mr. We have a waxing machine. We call it Mr. Miyagi. Wax on, wax off. And we do put a ring of wax around the head before we press it in. And it's not so much there because it's needed. It's more as a safety measure. So sometimes when we're building the heads, we end up with slightly looser tolerances than we would prefer. And the wax is just to hold the water in until the wood swells. Once the wood swells, it'll push all the wax out, and we'll go through and clean it up. And so before you guys get it, the wax will be mostly removed. You may see a hint of it around the crows, but it's going to be removed.
Got it. That's awesome. Okay, so you said it's about 1.7 gallons or something like that. So have you thought about making larger or smaller, or have y'all thought about anything like that, like not doing a commercial size, obviously a 53 gallon, because that would be massive. But like, I know that you can see them behind me, the 1030 barrels, they hold about 850 liters, milliliters, sorry, 850 milliliters. So it's like just enough for a bottle of whiskey or whatever. So have you thought about going smaller or larger, or is this the size that y'all are sticking with?
For now, definitely it's the size that we're sticking with. Ben did play around with some 6-quart containers, and part of it is all of our tooling is homemade in-house.
Right.
So all of our tooling is sized to an 8.25 quart Bon Marie pot, because that's what the stainless steel can is. It's an 8.25 quart Bon Marie pot. So we do have some tooling that was designed for 6 quarts, and I don't know if that's better. I know from the home distiller standpoint, it takes about 2 runs for a home distiller to fill up one of the BadMotivator barrels. I don't think we would try to go any smaller than that. And then for larger than that, Yeah, I mean, I do know some companies that are making different items, but yeah, we're not really going to try to compete with them.
Got it.
And the same
Got it.
thing goes with the little, like the little 1030 barrels that Ian makes. Like
Yeah.
our products were developed in parallel with each other, and there's no reason for us to try to compete with them.
Right, right. Because y'all are both doing very similar but different things. And
Right.
y'all are also doing bourbon barrels as well, and used oak, and you've got, I've heard Alan said he sent y'all a barrel head or something, and you made a couple out of that. So that's
Yeah,
really
so
cool. Tell us about that.
I've got a yeah, I was gonna say I've got a Matty Gladys barrel here.
Oh man.
I'll be right back.
So for those who are listening, he's going and finding all this stuff for us. So just stand by.
Yeah,
Wow.
I apologize. Bear with me.
No,
This
don't.
So this is a Matty Gladys barrel. So this is from Spirits of the French Lick. That's Alan Bishop. And we took his barrel. This was first a brandy barrel before it was a Matty Gladys barrel. And we put third use for this oak.
Oh, wow.
And we created 5 of these barrels. So this is one of them. This was one of the last barrels that Ben made. And you can see I put the R5D4 logo on it, which if any of you Star Wars fans out there know what BadMotivator is referring to, this is a big hint.
you get extra points for that. Extra points.
Yeah, make sure you guys comment down below with that. With that BadMotivator.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
that is cool.
We're going to end up doing a rum in that. So that's kind of the last hurrah project that I've been working on for Ben.
Awesome. And that's what's so cool about what you guys are doing, and what, you know, there's other people out there doing similar things but different. Because I was saying earlier, when you get the novelty barrels that are, you know, a couple of quarts or something like that, they over extract the oak way too fast. They're horribly made. They're, you know, you don't know even the type of wood that they're in. And with these, you know, you're getting a quality wood, you're getting quality craftsmanship, and you're getting something that is comparable to a full-size barrel. And so, like, let's say you wanted to put, you know, in where I'm at in Central Texas, there's a bunch of wineries around here. And let's say you wanted to put some of that wine in there and age it a little longer, put a port in there and age it a little longer. It would make that port amazing, especially, and then you could put something else in it and finish it with that port barrel. So there's the possibilities are endless. And tell us some of the things that I know that y'all do testing at the shop. Tell us some of the things you've been testing on. I heard the rum. I've heard of some other things that are going on. What are some of not the projects, but some of the things that you've been trying to figure out what the wood is imparting? Tell us some of those efforts that you guys are doing.
Sure. So I guess somehow along the way I turned into a wood nerd. So I'm always looking for new woods. I have a local cooperage by me. They're probably about an hour north, and they make wine barrels. So they take in used wine barrels and they recraft them. So I've been buying Oregon Pinot Noir barrels from them, and these are French oak.
Oh man!
And then they've had Pinot Noir in them for a minimum of 2 years before I get a hold of them, and then I will I'll skim them so the wine leaves behind like a tartaric acid.
Yep.
So I'll remove that tartaric layer to expose the wood, but it'll still be very pink from the Pinot Noir. And then I'll either immediately finish a whiskey with that, or the other option is I'll char it and then I'll do a full maturation in it. And I've been working with them trying to set up a regular supply of those barrels for you guys so that I can offer those more frequently in the shop.
Yeah, I mean, because that's awesome.
Right. That and the bourbon barrels I've been getting a hold of lately, it's mostly Jim Beam makers, a few Brown Foreman barrels have come through. It's kind of a hodgepodge of what I can get.
Right.
I have the newest wood for us is the Missouri American oak, because I don't know if you guys knew, but we used to get our wood from Canton Cooperage, and we were getting between 4 and 5 year oak from them. But that source has kind of dried up a little bit, which they've promised us that we can get more this fall. So we're looking forward to that. However, we've been working with the cooperage in Missouri, which has been amazing. They've been great people. So we've appreciated them working with us and getting the highest quality wood that they can source.
Absolutely.
So that's what our current barrels are made from. And then, Randall, you have a preview barrel. We've been playing around with Oregon oak. I've got a couple pallets of, yep, there it is. I knew it was hiding there somewhere.
It is. It's hiding. I was waiting to bring it out.
So I got a pallet, and it's 120 months, so 10-year aged Oregon oak. So for those people that don't know Oregon oak is one of those forestries that's had a really hard time with the barrel cooperages, and there's a couple reasons for that. Mainly, for us, it's kind of a scrub oak. It's an oak that we don't see a lot of monetary value in, so it gets turned into firewood and thrown away, which is really sad. I've got a not a sawyer, but a mill that I'm working with here locally. He's got some 4-year Oregon oak that I haven't yet pulled the trigger on, but these are between 200 and 300-year-old trees that he's sawing right now.
Oh, wow.
And this is all blow down storm damage. So we're not destroying any trees. We're taking trees that were already damaged and turning them into barrels. And I think there really is a market. And as I continue to push that home distilling community and kind of show them what Oregon oak is and what Oregon oak could be at a commercial scale, I think we can renew some interest in Oregon oak.
Absolutely. And I think I know that Alan's done some research on the Oregon oak, and he has said that it presents a lot like a French oak would, which is a little spicier in the notes, maybe a darker caramel note, maybe even a molasses into it, which is really interesting because when you get American white oak, which is the baseline for all the barrels, it's great. Obviously, every whiskey's made in it, right? But when you start changing the type of oak, it's still oak. It still meets the guidelines. It just gives it a little something different. Like I know everybody's trying the Amburana finish, and they're trying the Mizunara oak and all these different oaks, which is amazing. And I'm not going to poo-poo a finished whiskey at all, because I've had some that are absolutely fantastic. But the fact that we have all of this stuff in America, like there's a shipment coming to somebody with some pecan oak, or some pecan, and to see the difference that makes, or I don't know if I would do this type of barrel because I think it would present crazy and get too acrid, but there's a huge thing with mesquite around here. So it's like, obviously that'd be an accent or something like that, kind of like Amburana, but I know that they like Cole Keegan and Whiskey Del Bach, they smoke their grain with mesquite, and it gives it this I want to say acrid, but it's not really acrid. It's like a barbecue mixed with citric acid taste, which I know sounds horrible, but it's a really good mix. And like they're just doing some amazing stuff with the different types of oak, and so or wood. Not I say oak, I mean wood. So yeah, I mean it's just amazing that you're getting 10-year-old, and then you have probability of getting 4-year-old if it's worth your while. That to me is a big thing in this community, because being that the guys that are doing it at the house, not that I'm promoting that at all and it's illegal, don't do it, but the guys that are doing it at the house, they don't have to stick with the guidelines of a 53-gallon barrel or a this or a that. They can do whatever they want with whatever they want. So in saying that, why not try to use a chinkapin oak or whatever other wood we have around? Because I talked about it in a podcast previously. about the wood shortage, supposed wood shortage, even though only 1% of the wood goes to making barrels, all the rest goes to making your Adirondack chair in the backyard. But anyway, that's beside the point. But so it's like using different types of wood obviously is going to give you a different profile, but it's also going to help the sustainability and the deforestation because when you think about it, and my hearts and prayers go to the people of Maui. I didn't want to bring that up, but like fires are a real thing, and forest fires are a huge thing, and we need control of that, and deforestation for that is a big deal. And I know a lot of that's pine and stuff like that for up around Washington and Oregon. A lot of that is pine as well, but and we wouldn't want to use that for a barrel because that's not going to be good. But at the same time, like the fact that we're trying to find different sources, it's a huge deal. Sorry, rant over. Go on, continue. Sorry.
No, I mean, you bring up a good point. So I'm surrounded by forest fires right now. So we've actually, today's the first day in at least a week that we were under 100. I think it got up to 98 today. I've got numerous forest fires. So like right here at my desk, I actually keep an air quality meter that if the air quality in the shop gets too bad, I can shut down for the day. I know on Monday, I think our air quality was in the 470s here in the shop. So we had to shut down and take a break. I've got some pretty industrial filters that we run to try to clean up the air before we can get back in the shop. So, I mean, that's a very real reality for us. And that's partly why I push sustainable harvesting of the oak. And that's why I work with millwrights that will source from wood sources that are sustainable.
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be an amazing relationship.
It sounds
brought up,
like. Go ahead.
Yeah, you brought up chinkapin. I have a buddy in Georgia that sawed me up some chinkapin and sent it over. So there are 2 Badmo barrels that exist that are chinkapin oak. Okay. And they're amazing. So I'm a big fan of chinkapin. Well, because chinkapin has a really certain sweetness to it that I really appreciate. Okay. And I'm working with a local distillery, and we created, call it what you want to call it, but it's a sugar infused corn whiskey. So it's not really a whiskey. This will be like a distilled spirit specialty, a DSS. Right. But we aged it with chinkapin oak. And it's been about 7 months now, and the amount of oak that I infused it with, I think we're getting really close to being ready. So this would be really similar to a home distiller having a glass jar and sticking staves in it. So we did that at the commercial scale, and so we've got these giant, like 5-gallon glass carboys with as much oak as I could stuff in the bottom. No, I say that, but the amount of oak, it's the proper ratio. So I've got a magic ratio in my mind of what I think that recipe needs, and that's the amount of oak that we put into it. And it's Fireside Distillers here in Eugene, and they're getting ready to reopen their tasting room, and that's going to be one of the products that they're offering in this tasting room exclusive. So that's an exciting product.
That is really exciting. And the fact that you got to be front and center with all that just takes what you guys are doing. And I know that it wasn't sitting in a Badmo barrel or something like that, but now that would be kind of cool to have that on the shelf aging, and they could pour a little sample out for people. Anyway, just throwing that out there. But
it's definitely already in my mind and in the works. So
yeah, exactly.
We're trying to figure out how to make sure that a Badmo barrel is front and center in the tasting room.
Right, exactly. And so the fact that you guys are willing to try these different things, because like I feel, here we go, we're getting on it again. I feel like a lot of people, or a lot of distilleries, and a lot of people in general, they are stuck in a niche, and they do not want to get out of it. And if it's not Jim Beam bourbon, which again, not shitting on Jim Beam, if it's not Jim Beam bourbon, it ain't nothing. Which I get that. I get the heritage and the stuff like that. But why can't we try different things? Like, that's why I really wanted to talk to Alan Bishop, and not to toot his horn and not to talk about somebody I've already talked with, but that's why I wanted to talk to him, was because he's doing such different things with the barrels and with the grains. And no, there is 5 distilleries I can think of off the top of my head that are using oats, and they're very rarely using a large amount of oats. It's just a little bit. I know that Aventura Stills out of Tucson, or maybe they're Tempe. Anyway, Arizona, they have an oat ski. It's like a 30% oat. But anyway, long story short, the fact that he's doing different things with different barrels, and then he's willing to try things, shows me that that's a good distiller, and that's a good person that's taking these barrels. Because as you well know, as if having to buy used barrels, barrels aren't cheap. Wood isn't cheap. Just going to the store to get wood, if you don't have fallen wood from Snowmageddon that we had here, if you don't have fallen trees that you're still cutting on, if you have to go buy wood, it's very expensive. And, yes, it is cut and stacked and stuff like that. But here's the thing, like, trying different things. Why is that horrible? Like, why are we stuck in such a niche that we can't get out of it? And that's one of the things that I feel like you guys are letting people try things. Like I said in my video earlier, take a whiskey that you don't really care for, whatever it is, put it in the barrel, let it age for a little bit and see what happens with it. I mean, you can always try things. And yeah, I'm sorry. I keep going off. And
well, it's a good point. Well, and the other one too is, find your local distillers, and see if you can buy White Dog from them.
Yep.
I've got a local distiller here. It's Heritage Distilling in Eugene, and they'll sell you White Dog. Go get 8 quarts of White Dog, or 8 750s of White Dog, and throw it in one of my barrels.
Yeah.
Look
Absolutely.
what happens. I mean, it's absolutely amazing in what you can accomplish.
Yep. And that's,
well, so
and,
to your point, you were talking about different grains and how different inputs. Being somebody that's been on the distilling side of whiskey, definitely somebody on the consuming side, but somebody that's been on the production side of whiskey and on the barrel side of whiskey, there are so many things that I can influence, and there's also so many places that I can make mistakes that will destroy my product.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it all starts with fermentation. Well, even before that, back up, it starts with the recipe. It's like, what grain are you going to use? Because, you think of commodity corn. So corn is corn is corn. There are so many amazing corn varieties out there.
Absolutely.
This is one of the things that Alan and I really bonded over, was that, we've shared corn seeds with each other. So,
wow.
I have some of his corn growing. He's got some of my corn growing. So, I'm a big believer in finding local grains. I have local corn that I use. There's a blue corn that's grown here in the valley near me that I use all the time. There's also some other varieties that are a little further away. That's Doofer, which is kind of like north central Oregon. And so I'll get corn from them. There's also a malt house in Madras, Oregon that I've been using, and they've got some absolutely amazing barley varieties, and I've been playing with all of them. And I brought those into Fireside. So Fireside is now producing some of my malt varieties using Mecca grade malt, which is made here in Oregon. So that's local malts.
Yep.
And we've got a La Manta, which is one of their, I think one of their really strong flavored malts. It's an amazing malt. And it's really full body. Like, if there's any beer brewers out there, if you say Mecca grade malt, like, that's the bougie malt. Like, that's really good malt.
Yep.
And when you go from Mecca grade malt, and then you're like, well, I'm just going to use the commodity 2-row barley, and it's like they're not even close. Like you
No,
can't even put
they're
them in the
not.
same category with each
No,
other. And
no.
then so now we have this recipe, and we're changing the malts and we're changing the flavors. And on top of that, then now you add in yeast. It's like, oh my goodness, like mind blown the amount of options out there when it
Yep.
comes to yeast.
Yep.
And um, you know, one of my projects was, we played with the GMO yeast. We played with the yeast that was from Omega that was modified. They used the CRISPR, and they actually genetically sequenced a yeast strain and modified it. And it's a thiolized yeast. So those of you out there that know what thiols are, these are compounds that are inside the beer, because distiller's beer is what you will throw in the still. So you have a distiller's beer, and it'll have thiols, and these are like guava and citrus flavors, and they just explode in your face.
Yep.
And when you throw that in the still, it comes through. It comes through in the distillate.
Yep.
So we've been playing around with that. Like we've been doing some really, I think, cool stuff. But what can I say? I'm a whiskey snob.
Yeah. Well, no, you're not. You're a adventurous type. Which, and here I'm going to go back to Texas whiskey because that's what I do. But that's the same thing that Balcones is doing. Balcones is trying, because now they have a whole beer line as well, which I knew a little bit about the beer, but I didn't know that much. And so like they brought a beer guy, what do they call Cicerone or whatever they call him in, and he's made a whole beer program, which has totally redesigned their whiskey program. Because now they're looking like they've always been kind of geeky on the yeast and the stuff like that. But now they're going like hardcore into it, like, oh, we need to set it at this temperature. We need to do this. We need and you're like, you're gonna boil the crap out of it. Like, does it really matter? It does. It really does.
It does.
And
100% it does.
And the grains you're using, and one thing that and of course, not to talk shit about Balcones, but having Diageo's backing, now they're able to source local grains that are more expensive, because before they couldn't do it as much because, I mean, obviously they're having to create a profile and they just didn't have the funds to make those local grains. And so they're making a fully Texas malt, and they're putting all this crazy yeast in it, and they're wild growing yeast on site so that they can make a profile for them. Well, like they didn't have a profile to begin with, and that's the thing that's going to happen with a lot of these. Balcones is borderline craft as of right now, because I didn't go to Scotland, but I saw people in Scotland that saw Balcones on the shelf. So that to me, that puts you at the edge of craft, but at the same time, like they're still Texas boys and I love them. But like, that's something that Andalusia is playing with. That's something that a lot of these Westland is a big one. They're playing with that. And Westland. I think it's both of them. Anyway, they both came from brewing backgrounds, and they're like, hey, let's make a whiskey. That's great. Let's do that. And they're not scared to play with all the different types of malts and all the different types of corns and they're not just doing a yellow number 2, regular base rye and then 2-row malt. They're doing like, oh, let's throw a little caramel 60 in there, or let's do a chocolate malt and throw that on top of it. That to me is what the craft of craft distilling and craft whiskey making is. And if you were to put all of that in one of those barrels behind you, oh, buddy, we're gonna have some good stuff. Sorry, I keep going. I mean,
you brought up some really good points. One of the things that you kind of skirted around when it comes to an industrialized distilling is efficiency.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get low cost grains, and they're going to use the most advanced enzymes they possibly can to extract as much possible sugar from that grain. And then they're going to ferment it using the most efficient yeast. And then they're going to distill it using the most efficient column. And then after all that's been said and done, now they're looking for flavor. It's like, well, you left flavor
Yeah.
3 steps ago.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
put the
Absolutely.
flavor back in it. You're like, use inefficient malts. Why? Because inefficient malts have flavor. That's the inefficiency. Use inefficient yeasts. Like, I have a yeast that I use that leaves like it's or like, gravity wise, let's say we start at like 1070 specific gravity. So for those that are into brewing, we use the specific gravity scale normally to measure the amount of sugar that's in a wash, or what's in a wort before we ferment it. So we'll start with like 1070, and then it'll stop at 1020. So I'm leaving a lot of sugar there
Yep.
that could be converted into alcohol, but I don't want it to.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's the flavor.
That's
and
flavor.
when we run it through the still, that inefficiency, I mean, there are some challenges that are associated with it. Like, it's not a good flocculator. But once you get it to once you force flocculate it, it comes out an amazing wash. Absolutely amazing. Like, the distillate coming off the still, I couldn't describe how, like, buttery and smooth. And I hate to use the smooth term. So like, from a mouthfeel standpoint, it's has a really heavy, really voluptuous mouthfeel, and that's really what I'm looking for in a new make spirit. Because one of the things that Ben used to always say, he's like, I can take a good spirit and I can make it great. I can't take a bad spirit and make it good.
Yep.
So that's what my barrels do. It's like, I can take a good spirit and make it great. But if you're starting with something that's cost cutting the entire way, that's what your final product's going to be.
Yep.
It's going to be a cost cutted product.
Yep. And it's like the analogy: good stuff in, good stuff out; bad stuff in, bad stuff out. It doesn't matter what you do in your personal life, in your brewing life, in your distilling life. It doesn't matter. You eat crap all day, guess what? Crap's gonna come out. You drink crap all day, crap's gonna come out. So, and I know we kind of got off on a tangent, and that's perfect. And I love that, because it all goes back to the wood. Because think about it, you have a good new make, and I'm gonna fanboy on Andalusia again. Their new make that they sell over the counter, it's a triple distilled, which take that for what it is. It does strip some of the congeners out, so it's a little lighter. It's not vodka, obviously. It has some flavor, but that to me is amazing, and that's what I've put in a lot of these Badmos, because I just want to get some of that flavor out. But at the same time, like, I forgot what I was going. My wife texted me at the same time. Okay, where was I going? Oh man.
So you're talking about Andalusia and taking their new make and putting it in your Badmo barrels.
Yes.
So it's,
man.
I mean, it's a flavorful new make. So having a good new make like that is going to allow you to have a great whiskey in
okay,
4 to 5 years. Well,
that's where it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that Ben and I used to argue about all the time. So we used to argue, how much impact does a year make on the whiskey? How much does 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? The thing that we always agreed upon is more is always going to be better. The longer you leave it in the barrel, the better it's going to get. It seems this consensus, he and I agreed that once you get to about 5 years, your extraction rate is, I mean, incredibly close. So you're looking at like 96% extraction at 5 years. So that's you're chasing that final 4% after 5 years.
Right. And that's why a lot of Kentucky distilleries, and don't quote me on this, dump their barrels at 6-7 years, because that's the where they're getting their profile. And then you get to like 12-year, it starts getting like weird over tannic, type. And then you get to the Pappy 23. And I know I've talked shit about Pappy a couple times, and I'm not trying to, like, if you can find a bottle, get it, I get it. But the 23 to me tastes like you're licking the wood. Like, that's what it tastes like. It tastes like a charcoal briquette. And I'm like, that's not really what I want. If I'm smoking a cigar, which I don't, obviously, I don't need to smoke a cigar. If I'm smoking a cigar or something like that and don't need to taste it, but like Pappy 23 is like a $6,000 whiskey, I'm not going to be smoking a cigar with it. Like, it's just, to me, that you get to a point of diminishing return and then you go off the cliff and you're like, oh, now it's just weird, because I've had the Pappy 15, I think it was, and it was good. It wasn't the best whiskey I've ever had, which, that's not saying a whole lot because my profile is very strange in that I like what I like. And I think that's most people, like, they have a baseline and they like what they like, but like, it was good. It wasn't great. I wouldn't buy a bottle. That's, I would take the old Rip 10 over the Pappy 15 all day long. That's just me. But like, so there, I get what you're saying, like between 5-6 years, it's not gonna give you any more than you want. But up until then, like if you take, and that's the cool thing about y'all's barrels is it has a pour spout. You can take a small sample off of it and be like, at 2 years, oh man, that's amazing. Take a sample, get you a little 2-ounce sample or something like that, pull it off, try it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then be like, okay, it was really good at 2 years. I probably should have pulled it at 2 years, but I let it go to 4. It's amazing here, but it really hit its stride at 2. Recreate whatever you're trying to do. Excuse me. Put it back in there and try it again. Obviously, with wood, and Chris, you can tell me more about this, but with wood, each stave of wood is a little bit different. So it's going to give a little bit different profile. So tell us a little bit about that. Let's get wood nerdy, a little wood nerdy.
Sure. Let's get nerdy with some wood. So, so you brought up a really good point. So each stave is going to be different. So, well, let's back up. So let's say we're harvesting trees from a forest. Each tree in that forest is going to be different. But also from forest to forest, the trees are going to be different. And then within a tree, I can cut several staves out of the same tree, and each one of those staves is going to be different. So trying to figure out, it's like, okay, this tree planted on this day, harvested 35 years later on this day is going to have this profile. It's not going to happen. So, I mean, it's, I'm sitting here and I've got, like this stave right here is Quercus alba. So this is American white oak. Well, here's another Quercus alba, and these two don't taste the same. Like, I can't make the profile be the same. So, and that's what's really nice about our barrels is I use anywhere between 2 and 5 staves. So you're going to get a combination of multiple wood profiles in each barrel.
So it's kind of like, I've used this analogy a couple times. I'm not into it, but like, it's kind of like Pokemon. You got to catch them all, because like I do that with whiskeys. Because like every new release that comes out, I'm like, oh shit, I need that one too. What the hell? Come on. But like with y'all's barrels, it's like, okay, well, this is a new batch from Missouri. Oh man, I got to have one of those to try what that is, or this is the one of 2 chinkapin, which, I'll let you have that one. That's fine. But, like you get these specific flavors out of each one. And that's why, when you get a single barrel pick of a whiskey or a brandy, a rum, or whatever, it is so different than its core release. Like I got a single barrel pick of Knob Creek. Let's just say that Knob Creek, the baseline Knob Creek, small batch or whatever. It's a good whiskey. It's great. Whatever. The single barrel is spicy. It's hot. It has a lot of cherry on it, which the other ones didn't. That's because that one barrel, whatever stave, it's one of the staves put off a lot of cherry. One of the staves put off a lot of really dark toasty notes. And so like you guys are condensing that into one little piece, And that to me is ooh, yeah, that's doing some cool stuff, because as those barrels age, they are putting off other things, because once the alcohol, because alcohol is a solvent and it breaks down the lignins, and oh my god, we're gonna get real nerdy. I'm sorry. It breaks down all that stuff. So once you start breaking all that down, it presents other compounds for it. So the longer it stays in the barrel, the more compounds it gets. And that's why the flavor changes throughout the years. Wow, I did learn something at Psalm school. Anyway, for those hating on the Psalms out there. But at the same time, like, the wood profile on each barrel is going to be a little different. So why not get, and I'm not condoning anybody buying 8 barrels, because I guarantee you Chris can't keep up with everybody buying 8 barrels, because I mean they sell out within 20 seconds. So don't even try. He has a wait list of like 1,800
yeah,
people.
I don't let people buy more than 4.
Yeah,
That's kind of my limit.
Yeah, exactly. So, but get a couple barrels, try them together, try them separately, and you'll see the difference. Blend them together, and then you have a blending game of like, oh, I've got 3 different barrels of 3 things, and I can blend them together, and that just makes an amazing blend. And you have enough to share to people, you have enough to save, you have enough to bottle up. I mean, it's just, I can't fanboy you guys enough, I guess is what I'm saying. So what, I'm going to caveat, we're getting close. Sorry. So where do you see, and I forgot to ask you, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot this. First rattle out of the box, I should have said it, and I told myself I was going to, and I didn't, because we got to talking, and that's how it happens, and that's fine. Is there a specific whiskey, brandy, what scotch, whatever, that you're really into right now? And I'm not talking stuff that you have sitting in barrels. I'm talking more commercially, that people might be like, hey, I can get that, or something like that. What is there a specific thing you're like really into right now?
That's a good question. So I have a rather large whiskey collection at home. That's kind of one of those things that just accidentally happens.
It does.
The liquor store knows me by first name. Whoops.
Yeah, that sucks. I know, I hate that too. I feel you.
So, I hate Wild Turkey 101 is probably my favorite. Like that's one of those sips I always go back to, and it never disappoints.
Nope.
Probably one of the readily available whiskeys that I've really been enjoying lately is the Old Granddad 114. I feel like it's really underappreciated.
It is.
It really is. And the other one is the Overhort 114, the rye
Yep.
whiskey. That one's
Yep.
so really amazing. It's like,
Yep.
this isn't a screw cap. Like, this is the stuff that used to be on the bottom shelf of the liquor store for decades. And it's like, that's amazing.
It is. It is. And that's one thing I want to continue to go back to, is like, I'm not getting away from commercial people. Like, I want to support Wild Turkey, and I want to support Jim Beam, and I want to support all of these people that are these heritage brands. I want to support them because they do have the heritage. They put in the miles, and they put in the long time, in the barrel and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, hearing that you're like a Wild Turkey guy, hey, that's cool. I'm totally down with that. Like, to me, rare breed, that's where I'm at. It's a little hotter in price. It's a little higher in price, but a little more proof. But at the same time, it gives you everything that 101 gets, just a little bit more on top of it.
Yeah, it's just amped up more.
Yeah, amped up a little more. And so I hesitate in asking people that, because like, I've had very mixed reviews on the guests that I've had. But at the same time, like, it always goes back to like, hey, I like this, and I'm not going to say basic budget bourbon or scotch or whatever, but like, everybody goes back to that one bottle that they're like, you know what? I know this is going to be good. I was talking to Jared Himstead of Balcones, head distiller, master distiller, whatever you want to call him. And he said his go-to whiskey, and this dude samples 1,000 barrels a day. I don't even know how many barrels he tries. He said his go-to whiskey is Glenfiddich 12 because he knows exactly where it's at. He knows what he's going to get every time, and that to me is kudos. And I'm going to have a blender on here on our podcast real soon. I've got to call her. Yeah, okay, that gave it away. I've got to call her and get her on here. But I'm going to have a blender on here because to me, and we've talked about this a little bit, but blending whiskey is an art all in itself. Not just the barrel that it's in, but blending those barrel profiles and making a cohesive profile of like, this is Jack Daniel's Black Label. That's it. And to be able to make that consistently for 40 years, like seriously, what are you doing? Like that is, to me, is it takes somebody with super honed in taste to that specific profile. Like
I was going to say that, you know, that's really a black art.
It really is.
I see some of these blenders, and it's what's amazing about it is they can taste something and say, okay, well, you know, I know my brand profile, and they'll taste it and say, you know what, that has too much cherry. We need to add in this barrel over here, which has more cinnamon in it, and it's going to cancel out that cherry note. And they just know what these chemical phenols are and how to play them off of each other to develop that perfect mix.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely,
absolutely, and amazing.
And it's an art. It's an art. And another thing that's an art, and I'm going to bring it back home. Another thing that's art is what y'all are doing, because the availability, I mean, the ability of you guys to make a product and consistently make a awesome product that you know is going to get you a spirit that you want. And I just did a review of the Badmo barrels. Please go look at that on my YouTube. And it was a 1 year bourbon that had just been, had been in the barrel for a year. And I mean, I don't know. I know Ben's had quite a few years in testing on this. I don't know how long it's been online, and please tell me that. But like, there's not a whole lot of research in the longevity of the barrels other than the work that he and you have done. So getting these timestamps of like, this is what it tastes like at a year using this profile and whatever, but like getting those timestamps on the barrel in comparison to, like, say, a commercial spirit, like, it really does give you a space and time to where you can kind of coexist with the 53-gallon barrel and kind of go from there. And I don't know. Go ahead and tell us, when did Ben start? And I mean, I don't want to go into the whole backstory, but when did Ben start everything, and kind of give us a timeline up till then?
Sure. Well, and if you wait just a second, I can actually tell you when the first barrel was created. But roughly, it was about 7 years ago.
Okay.
That Ben created this first barrel. I've got a document here that I'm looking for. There it is. And so, yeah, so it was November 4th, 2015 is when Ben created this first barrel.
Oh, wow.
And so he came across some Uncle Jesse's sour mash, and that's what went into barrel number one. And being somebody who's personally tasted that barrel, it is awful. So this was back when we didn't really know what we were doing. So this was wood that came from the furniture store. This was not properly seasoned 42 Missouri American white oak. That was not what this was. This went to Home Depot, bought wood because wood's wood.
Right.
And it's
Right.
really amazing. It's really amazing to see the progression of people as they come into that. But some of his later barrels, it's like barrel number 36. That was one that I particularly remember. So that one was 8/13/2017 was when he made that barrel. So he's already about 2 years in at this point. And that was aged wood. That was wood that he had aged himself. It was aged a year at his house.
Right.
I mean, it just in the backyard.
Right.
He has a very understanding wife,
Yeah.
and she lets him
As
get
we
away
all
with.
do.
Oh well, yeah. Don't ask my wife. I get away with a lot. So, but he aged this at home, and he made barrels out of it, and it's really amazing. This was
Wow.
again, this was a heavy rum, and it's a really amazing. The barrel profile at 5 years, like it tastes like a commercial spirit. It really
Wow.
does.
Wow.
Anybody that's done whiskey aging at home knows that when you take a glass container and stick wood in it, you just never get the profile. Like
No.
the tannins get extracted from the oak before it lends those amazing whiskey flavors.
Yeah, because you don't have the micro-oxidation, and this is going to get nerdy again, and that's fine. But you don't have the micro-oxidation from the outside elements forcing into the wood, into the spirit, letting it draw through the wood. Like right now, I mean, you said you were just now under 100 degrees, which is amazing because right now in the shed it's probably 112, whatever. It's fine. We're gonna suffer through it, trying to make these
I was
good.
gonna say I'm suffering here too. It's
Yeah,
currently 91 degrees in the
yeah,
shop. So
yeah. I mean, I don't have the gauge out, but it's pretty hot. I got the AC blowing like literally on me right now. But I mean, and that's the thing, like the fact that the micro oxidation in the wood, I mean, that's going to give so much different flavor. And like I was saying in my earlier episode, if you check it in the summer, it's going to taste different than if you check it in the winter. So a lot of distillers always check it in the spring, supposedly the spring, because it's had time during the winter to kind of calm down, but then also ramp up a little bit during the spring where it gets a little warmer and it's not like super hot yet, but it's just warm enough. And so like they're like, okay, let's try it, April, May, something like that. And then that's when we know we need to dump the barrel. And that was kind of the whole premise on the whole bottled and bond thing as well, because they did it in season. You would distill it here, you would dump it here. You would distill it here, you would dump it here. And that's kind of where the whole bottled and bond act came into play, which obviously.
but they would also they would grow their grains in that season too.
Right.
So
right, exactly.
You would have to grow, if it's going to be like a bourbon, so it's got corn in it, you would have to grow that corn. All of the corn would have to be grown in one season.
Yep. Yep.
And then you would distill it in the next season, and then you would, stick it into barrels, and then it would sit there for 4 years in a bonded warehouse. And
right.
then, they would release it at 100 proof, and it's like, this is what bottled and bond was.
Right.
I was chatting with somebody recently about scrupulous distilleries back in the day and why bottled and bond was so important.
Right.
And it was a benchmark. Well, and what's amazing is how far the industry has gone above bottled and bond to make these amazing commercial examples of what we can get a hold of nowadays. There really is some amazing things happening at the top, not just the cool stuff we're playing with at the bottom, but also all the amazing stuff that's happening at the top as well.
Right. And that's you hit the nail on the head right there, because I don't know why, but for some reason I like when I see a bottle that says bottled and bond, like I tend to pick it up. I don't know why. I just do. Like the 1792 bottled and bond, the old granddad, the whatever is out there that's bottled. I just picked up a TX whiskey bottled and bond. And I'm like, I didn't know TX had bottled and bond. Whatever. And then I picked up recently the Andalusia bottled and bond rum. Okay, I'm not a rum guy. I mean, I care about rum. Like, I love a good rum and coke, right? Who doesn't? But, like, I only got it because it said bottled and bond, and it was the first bottled and bond in Texas. I mean, that's a big deal. But anyway, like, to me, that is a benchmark of, like, you're doing it the right way, even though every distillery is government regulated. Every one of them now. You can't have one without having government regulation, so they're all bonded. But at the same time, like, to go through those steps to make that product is a big deal, because you can release it earlier, you can let it sit, you can release it at a higher proof, you can do whatever you want with it. But, like, when it comes down to it, like, to me, the bottle and bond is kind of and that's why um EH Taylor and a lot of these other ones are released at bottled and bond proof, is because they're trying to pay heritage to that and say, hey, we're trying to do everything as legit as we can. And I feel like that's a huge thing in the industry right now. And I say that industry because I'm not part of the industry, but I guess I am in some part, but whatever, it's fine.
Well, and it's interesting to look at the progression of a new distillery. So, a new distillery comes online and they're like, okay, what can we get out the door today? So they say, okay, we're going to make gin. For whatever reason, it seems like every new distillery, they're like, we're going to make silver rum and we're going to make gin and we're going to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they get their rum and they get their gin out. And then somewhere along the line, they say, oh, okay, well, we need whiskey. Okay, so let's make some whiskey. Well, what are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to stick it in 5-gallon barrels and we're going to release it at 6 months and it's going to be a thing. So they have this really young whiskey that they release and it tastes like young whiskey. And we all give them a high five and say, good job. You've accomplished, well, because you've accomplished something.
Right.
And so like after the 5-gallon barrels, then usually they'll move on to like 10s or 15s and they'll try to get a straight whiskey. So that's their 2-year whiskey. And once they get past the 2-year whiskey, then they're like, okay, well, now we're big kids. So let's fill some 53s and let's get a bottled and bond. Yep. And it's like we see these distilleries over and over again. And they're all like somewhere in this progression. And I mean, I say that from seeing a lot of micro distilleries. Yep. Obviously, there are distilleries that they come in and they buy some heritage, and they're like, okay, we've been around since 1860 because we bought heritage that says we did. And then they throw $5 million into their whiskey production, and they don't sell anything for 5 years. We all know that those distilleries exist, and they might be doing great things. I wouldn't know. I don't buy from
them. Yeah. That is actually the next podcast that's coming out as of this recording, talking about the labels that we put on whiskey, like small batch and heritage brand and premium and all that shit. Like, just say what you got, like, to me, and I know you feel the same way about this, transparency is key. And I know I beat this into the ground 100 times, and I'm sorry to the listeners that are listening to this and like, we get it, transparency. But that's one of the things that, like, you guys are being very transparent about, and like a lot of other people are not. And they're skirting those lines of like, is this real? Is this not real? What kind of reality are we living in here? And so that to me is a huge deal. And I said I was going to take it home, and I'm taking it home again. That's one thing I love about the Badmo Legacy, is the fact that y'all are doing the thing that you say you're going to do, and you're presenting the product at the best quality you can get. Hey, we can't get 60-month-old wood. Guess what? You're going to get the next best thing we have. And we're going to tell you that's what we're getting. Or, hey, here's a new cool thing we got going on. You want to try this? And one of the things that I've seen you do on the emails that you send out and stuff is like, hey, we're coming up with this new cool thing. Do y'all want in on this? like kind of gauging the people before you actually release it, which is really cool. And one thing before we go, I want you to promote your socials and all that, obviously, but like you are also a very active member, and I say very active because I'm the mod of the Chase the Craft Facebook page. I am the most active mod. There's a couple other mods, but I'm the most active because I'm on there all the time because I got to kick those some bitches out when they're trying to sell stuff. But like, I really appreciate what you're doing in that context, is helping these people that are trying to hone their, like, there's people in there that have legitimate distilleries that are on our page, and I say our page because it is our page, that are asking questions to the entire group, saying, hey, is this cool? Is this not cool? Should I do this? And you are one of the most top rated contributors to that. And I just wanted to commend you on that. I mean, I know you're very active in the community, but also, I don't know how to say it in the right way, but like, you do it in a way that, like, I would say is the same way I would do it, like treating the people with respect, but also letting them know, hey, you're maybe not doing the right thing. Like, trying to help people not blow themselves up, or at the same time not poison their family when they're trying to do something. So I commend you for that, and I applaud you, because I know it can be a rough group at some points, but at the same time, it's a fun group. And if you guys haven't looked at it, it's the Chase and Craft Facebook page. You have to answer questions, so go listen to some of Jesse's stuff and then come in there and see if you can get in. But yeah, I really applaud you.
We're a great, yeah, I was gonna say we're a great group of people. Like we genuinely want to help each other. And as you said, that whole gentle guiding, it's like, that might not be the best idea. Here's my experience, and here's why I do it this way. You do you.
Yeah.
And that's usually the position I take. And it's interesting that they get several different perspectives from several members. And it's interesting to see people as they grow. There's definitely several people within the group that I've seen grow over the last couple of years, which I really appreciate their feedback, and I definitely use that for my projects. And I like to, gloat and show off the things that I'm playing with here at the shop.
Right. And okay, so to wrap this up, okay, go ahead and give me all your socials and all that stuff, and then stick around because I want to talk to you, obviously. But also, what do you have? Do you have any cool barrels coming in the future that could be coming out? Like maybe a Buffalo Trace barrel or something like that. Let us know.
Well, so I do not disclose who I get my barrel from. So I have ex-bourbon barrels, and I can tell you that I have an assortment.
Okay. Okay.
So there are other people that produce barrels, and they'll tell you who the maker was, and I don't disclose that. Okay. So it's going to be bourbon. Sometimes I come across rye barrels, and those usually disappear to folks I know, but the bourbon barrels are the ones that I offer on the website.
Okay.
And as you can see, we've got a bunch behind us, so these are going to be on sale soon. The website, it's BadMotivatorBarrels.com. And one thing about us is we're very transparent. And you brought this up earlier. I will tell you what the wood is, where the wood comes from, how I treat the wood, but also I've got a section on my page called Build. And we will show you step by step how to build your own barrel. And I want if anybody from this video takes anything away, I want you to go to my website and build a barrel. I'll even sell you the wood. Like, you want 42-month aged American white oak, that's the best wood I can buy. I will sell you the wood so that you can go make one of these barrels. Please. and carry on BadMotivator's legacy and keep producing amazing spirits.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. That, yeah, we're done. No. No, but I really appreciate you coming on here. And I know that, like, I know it's hard after Ben's passing, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. After Ben's passing, kind of carrying that on, because like you feel like you have a lot of weight on your back because he created such a thing. And so I'm really impressed with what you and your consorts are doing, because like, to be able to pick that up and just continue on is such a huge thing, and I commend you for that. And I pray for Ben's family, for peace and and tranquility in this time. And I also pray for you, because at the same time, like, I understand you're taking a heavy load on your back, having to move forward, but I feel like you're doing a pretty good job. You've already knocked out 200 barrels, so that's a big deal. And you've got new help, and you're going to start running this stuff through. But at the same time, the quality's not going to fail. And that to me is a huge thing. And I appreciate you coming on here and talking to us about wood. And that got weird. Anyway, talking to us about barrels and wood influence on whiskey and stuff like that. But at the same time, I appreciate you as a person, because I know that you loved Ben. And I'm not going to get sappy, but I know that you love Ben and you wanted to carry on what he started and take it into the next level. And I feel like you're doing that, and I applaud you for it.
It's definitely a burden of love. You hit it right on the head. Ben meant so much to me, and I definitely built my life around him. So having him being gone from that means that I have to do this twice as hard. So I'm going to continue to support the community. I try to support everybody as much as I possibly can. So if anybody ever has a problem, please reach out to me. I want to talk to you guys. I want to help you in any way that I can. Again, we're making the highest quality barrels that are available using the best process and the best procedures, the best ingredients, so that everybody can be successful. And that's what we want to accomplish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all listening to this, and make sure you follow everything that Badmo's doing, because obviously it's only going to go up from here. They're ramping up production. Get on their mailing list if you really want to get a barrel. If you want to try this stuff out, get on their mailing list. I mean, they've got like 2,500 people on their mailing list, but at the same time, if you want a barrel, get on there. Shoot me a DM. I might be able to get you in a little bit sooner, but not that much sooner, but at the same time, like, they're doing some amazing stuff. So please, support them, help them out. And also, make sure you follow everything I'm doing. Duh. The whiskeyshaman.com. No, not .com. What the hell am I talking about? The Whiskey Shaman, at Instagram, Facebook, all that shit. You know it. All right. Until next time, keep your spirits up.